morning, everybody. This is Silvia from Faravelli, and I'm very happy to be here today for a chat with Elisabeth De Preter. Is it correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Who is senior sales manager at Kappa Bioscience, a company that Faravelli has been working with for several years now in the nutraceutical industry. And first of all, welcome, Elisabeth.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you very much for accepting to take this interview with me. And as said, it will be a very nice and friendly conversation talking about Kappa Bio. I will ask you to introduce a little bit about the company and about the products. And so we will go through these questions. And so very, very friendly, okay, very friendly chat. And to start with, I will ask you if you can maybe a little bit introduce Kappa. So maybe tell us a little bit about the history and story of the company, the core business, when it was founded, I mean the year foundation, and how many people work in the company, just to give us a global view on it, okay? Thank you.
Yeah, so Kappa Bioscience was founded in 2006, and it happened because Kappa Bioscience is specializing on this particular vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is, of course, a vitamin that has always existed, but science has become aware of it really in the years 2000. It's a very important vitamin that is unfortunately missing in our diets, because as our diets evolved over time, this vitamin has disappeared. So when science started to gain insight on vitamin K2, of course, there was also a will to have it commercially available. But the production methods were not very well developed, so there was very little K2 available, and it was extremely expensive. And a Norwegian scientist, Inga Ryden Aukrust, who is an organic chemist and who was already specialized in developing molecules, decided to look into this, and she founded a company, Kappa Bioscience, in 2006 with the objective to develop a method, an organic synthesis method of vitamin K2 to have a viable commercial product. And she succeeded to synthesize vitamin K2 in 2009 on a lab scale, and then had a scale-up, documentation, etc. And in 2011, she was ready for the commercial launch, and that was really the start of Kappa. And it has been evolving at high speed, because we are now 2021. We are close to 60 employees in the company. We have become the European leader in the vitamin K2 market. There have been several technical developments and improvements. So it's really a very exciting way that we have been going.
Yeah, so actually Kappa, in my opinion, really looks like a pioneer in a certain way in the research about vitamin K2. I was going to ask you, why did you decide to start exactly with this particular vitamin, so being pioneering, but you already answered. So it was really a need to make people available, to give the availability for this important vitamin, is it?
Yes, exactly. And why the reason why vitamin K2 is so important is that it balances calcium. So I think everybody knows that we need calcium. Most people get calcium through the diet. Some have to take supplements. But what people don't realize is that it's not just by eating calcium-rich food that the calcium will arrive there where you want to have it. What you think of in the first place is your bones. Calcium is needed not only for bones, but also for other body functions. The problem is if your calcium is not well balanced, if you don't have the nutrients that bring the calcium to the right places, it can end up in parts of your body where you don't want to have it. And the most well-known phenomena is arterial calcification. So when the calcium ends up in your blood vessels, it will stiffen the blood vessels, which is called arterial calcification. and that is one of the major risk factors for cardiovascular disease and for stroke. So vitamin K2 plays a central role here, and that is something that is important for everybody. When you are growing up, you need a lot of calcium for your bones. When you're an adult, you need to have a strong base to stay young, to stay healthy as long as possible. Sorry. And then when people grow older, bone mass density tends to decline, so they need a strong supply of vitamin K. It's really a vital vitamin for all life stages, and there was no working commercial method, no well-functioning technical method to produce this vitamin K2, and that's really what made Kappa Bioscience start.
Okay, so actually you explained why vitamin K2 is so important, but so the main applications for this vitamin are, which are the main applications? I mean, calcium, and then?
Well, classical applications are mainly for bone health and heart health, because the studies on bone and heart are the oldest one within K2 science. When we are talking about bone health products, of course, we're talking about older people with a very strong focus on menopause, because when you are 40, your bone mass density starts to decline, both in men and women. And we know that 1/5 of older men and 1/3 of older women will face fractures through osteoporosis at some point in their lives. So of course, that's something you want to avoid. I just said especially for women, because this bone mass density that people are facing when they grow older is very strong in women after the menopause. So you really, in the studies, you see a very, very strong decline from that moment on. And you also see in studies that those women that are supplemented with vitamin K2, and ideally with a combination of vitamins D3 and K2, have a stabilization or even an improvement of bone mass density. So old age, super important, but also prevention. I mean, everybody knows it's better to prevent than to cure. And when we are talking about bone mass, the decline of your bones is not something that suddenly happens when you are old. It's a very long and very slow process. And when you are still young and healthy, you don't feel it. You don't feel the decline. Usually people notice it when they are old, and then they fall and they have a fracture. A hip fracture is very typical. And then, of course, you can still have a treatment, but the damage has been done. So it's really super important when you are young and healthy already to think of prevention and to take vitamins D3 and K2 to preserve your bones. And then there are some particular target groups like pregnant women and lactating women that are in need of calcium. So they also have to think of supplementation, and of course children, because when children grow, they have to grow strong bones. You don't want them to have fractures, so that's also a period in life where a good supplementation with K2 is important.
So we can intake vitamin K2 starting from really when we are very, very little kids.
Yeah, usually it's starting around about 3 years old. Supplementation can start. That's where you have products available, and there are studies on children, on young children. In fact, what you see, it's difficult to measure K2 in the blood, but you can measure a protein which is called osteocalcine. It's a protein that helps to bring the calcium into your bones. And when you have sufficient K2, this protein is activated by K2. And that's something you can measure. You can measure how much activated and non-activated osteocalcine you have. And in studies on children, you see that they have very high levels of not activated osteocalcine, showing that they are in lack of vitamin K2.